Well, let's talk then about this game in particular, going to Kingston to play Jamaica. This is the only qualifying window of all 14 games where there's only 2 games in the window. In January, we're going to play three again, 3 and 8 days, and the same at the end of March, 3 and 8 days. This is the only time for me that I think we can roll out almost the same lineup that we did before. Miles Robinson is out due to a red card, 2 yellows. Weston McKennie, yellow card accumulation. He's out. I thought that was a bit of a shaky yellow card that he got. Referee got a lot of big questions of him, and hopefully he gets evaluated properly so he can be better moving forward. I wonder what your lineup's going to be, and I guess we can kind of talk about it as we're shaping it through. But we have this rare opportunity now to roll out a similar team, and I want us to take advantage of that because it's harder to do. Up until this particular game, we had the 2 previous windows. We always went, in the Panama game in particular, we almost changed the whole team. And that lacks that continuity.
I still think that's insane.
It's insane, and we paid for it, right? I think that's very clear that wasn't the right decision. And let's see if Gregg can continue to evolve.
But Jimmy, by the way, when I say that's insane, we got out of some of these messes other than Panama. And we got out of these messes, and you were able to. I think it's 33 players now that we've given games to in qualifying, or maybe it's more after this last game, but I think it's 33. That's a lot of players getting valuable international experience. To be on 14 points after those games, you can look back at it as a learning. Now, if those things went really wrong, then you fire Gregg Berhalter. But when you look at it, you're like, okay, you're actually bringing the whole team and players forward, which you hedge your bets. Like that is a huge risk, and I don't agree with it whatsoever. But when you look back and know that you got these points out of it, you go, okay, now I've got a few more battle-hardened players that have understood the moment and understood the feeling. But sorry, that was a little bit of a side note. But to get to if you want to get to the lineups, I think it's going to be relative as close to the same team as we saw in this one. That would be my guess. Chris Richards comes in for Miles Robinson, and then I would say Pulisic or Areola starts, and then you're looking at the midfield battle is going to be whether you go with Sebastian Lletget, which I don't think he will. I think Sebastian Lletget is a little bit more of a capper on this team now. A little bit more of your final 10 leader, knows the moment in time.
He's the boomer on the team.
Yeah, he's the boomer. Yeah, he's the one. He's the one that has to tell the joke at the dinner table before everybody can go back to their rooms. But I see Sebastian Lletget's role diminishing, but still of utmost importance at the moment because he's not going to be relied upon as a starter, I don't think, moving forward. But in the final 10 minutes, when a player has the consistency of that, he's a little bit more conservative of a guy. He understands. I think he can understand the moment in time to grind out results in the final moment. So I'm looking at that third midfielder being Kellen Acosta, which I don't love because I don't think him and Tyler Adams are great together.
I agree.
Or Gianluca Busio. And I'm guessing Gregg goes with the engine of Acosta because this is a game of, I think, counterattacks again. I would personally, if I'm looking at how you match up against Jamaica, if you watch Jamaica, most of their games, even this last one against El Salvador, they spend a lot of time deep in their box, and you're going to need people who are really good on the ball to break them down. They're totally comfortable putting 7 defensively in a deep block and making you have to work around them. I think having balls whipped in from the sides, I thought El Salvador was good at whipping balls in from wide areas. And so when I think offensively, how do you neutralize this team, or how do you beat Jamaica away from home? You go a little bit more attacking, somebody who can control the flow of the game with Gianluca Busio in that spot. Do I think Gregg Berhalter will do that? No. I think he probably sees it a little bit more as Jamaica having speed in transition, needing somebody that can cover the ground. So taking a more defensive approach where you have maybe Kellen Acosta in that position. And then obviously Areola or Christian Pulisic that you start in this one. A reminder for anybody that didn't watch the games, Michail Antonio only played the final quarter of an hour because they expect him to start against the U.S. And in that quarter of an hour, he scored. And when I look at
absolute banger of a goal, by the way.
When I look at the two big chances Mexico had, right? You put Michail Antonio in the streak that he's on as a bona fide goal scorer. He's not missing those. You get him in front of the goal, he'll beat 1, 2, and he'll finish it off when he gets that chance. And that's my worry, is cutting out those chances, which leads me to believe. Sorry, I got a bug flying around in my face right now, which leads me to believe that
it's probably a constructive criticizer.
Just buzzing around my face, just waiting for me to swat. And I'm not going to swat, Jimmy. I'm not going to swat.
No, cuddle him, meet him halfway, kill him with kindness.
26 players have made their World Cup qualifying debuts in this campaign, and I think we've used 33 plus players in this qualifying campaign. But I guess to wrap up my point and get your thoughts on it, Those are the changes that I think we'll see. I know I didn't really give I kind of gave what I wanted.
It's fine.
There,
it's fine. Well, it's a good jumping off point for me to hop in. I don't want us to change much. I have thought about your thoughts initially after the game against Mexico. We did like a brief preview about whether Christian Pulisic should start or not. I've softened on that. I don't think he should start. I think there's probably been some chatter from his club team going, "Hey, we don't want to see."
Especially now, you don't need it.
Yeah, right. And we've proven that. So I could see, okay, maybe he gets 35, maybe even gets the second half based on how it's going. But maybe there's been a collective, and this is how the player can get on board as well. So he's not feeling disappointed or left out in the communication. But I could see him, Chelsea, and the U.S. Soccer, Greg, all saying, "Hey, man, you're not starting any of these games. You got 30 in you, and that's that." And he's like, "All right, that sucks, but at least I know what's coming and I can prepare for it mentally and emotionally and all that good stuff." So fine. And then you can come on and be the hero, which is probably pretty awesome anyway. And kind of Michail Antonio-esque, who I said a banger of a goal. I should rephrase it because it was an individual effort where he bodies somebody at the sideline near the halfway line and rolls that guy with his physicality and good first touch. Then he engages the defender that's coming over to cover. And this is where the Michail Antonio of this season in particular is just another level. I mean, just the quality shifts the defender to go off to the wrong foot, creates enough space. Goalkeeper comes rushing out and he just does a little dink into the goal. I'm like, God damn, Michail Antonio is on something fierce, because that's not the Michail Antonio I remember from 3 or 4 years ago, who would be kind of rushing it, right? And not lacking a little bit of that class and composure in those situations. And you're right. And this isn't, you're right with regard to us giving up chances. We've still given up that 1 or 2 glorious chance a game, and Canada hurt us on it, right? Alphonso Davies made the most of it. Kyle Aaron saw it through. Mexico did not. El Salvador, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they had any clear cut, but we can go back to Costa Rica, had that chance, but Brian Ruiz wasn't fast enough to take advantage of it. and this is this is like a rotating. I mean, this is everybody. John Anthony Brooks has been, victimized by this. Miles Robinson, Chris Richards, Walker. I mean, all of our center backs have been hurt in this way, or back line, let's say, but I'm thinking mostly at the center backs. And if you go back to the Nations League semifinal against Honduras, Albert Elise came. He had a chance too that Zach Steffen staved in that one. That could have changed the whole direction of what we're even talking about. Because if Greg gets knocked out there, maybe we're in a different spot. But
is that tactical, you think? Is that tactical?
Well, I do think we play a high line
we're
sometimes.
Pressing too high all the time?
Maybe. And we can't, it's hard to keep that up the whole time. And that's where establishing a flow. We talk about it a lot with the ball, but sometimes you can establish a flow and a rhythm without the ball. And you can still be in control of the game without the ball. Yeah. But that really asks a lot of discipline and communication and savvy from a group of guys. That's hard to do no matter how good you are, to get everybody on the same page, working together with team shape. So with regard to projected lineup, Zach Steffen in goal, maybe his best game ever for the U.S. Against Mexico.
That's a sure.
Robinson, Zimmerman, Richards. I think we could see Joe Scally. I don't want to. I think you roll out Yedlin. There's a nice rapport that was built. If you give that back line another 90 minutes, they're only going to get better, in my humble opinion. I don't bring a cost in. You got Tyler Adams, definitely sitting there. Musa stays in. And then this is where it gets a little tricky. I think that Busio would be the player I would go with, because he can help you establish that flow. El Salvador in this last game had 60% possession. They look to play, and Jamaica struggles at times. How they solve a lot of their defensive issues, Jamaica, is just by getting numbers behind. But it doesn't really mean that they're working together always, or at least not collectively. I can see Jamaica pressing very well in 1s and 2s, but are they doing it as a group?
Yeah, there's gaps. There's definitely gaps. There's clever for a clever player. There's gaps, and just in the way the U.S. got beat by Mexico, the clever way. Yeah.
But no, just really quick. Alex Roldan scored a good goal because he made a late run from midfields, and that's where Weston McKennie is a big loss for us, because it's harder to track those late runners, and Weston McKennie's got good timing in that, and he continues to get even better in picking his spots and when to go. His future is fantastic with regard to that, and a lot of other areas as well. But Leggett gives us that. We've seen him already score a few goals in some friendlies when they were doing them in Europe.
He scored all the goals at the top of the box.
Yeah, just coming in late, right? That cross hard and low, back across, not at the near post, but back towards the middle. He has scored those, and I could see Greg thinking, That's where the space is going to be. That's how El Salvador scored. That's how we had a lot of success against Mexico as well in the second half, and we actually tried to focus on it. I could see Lletget starting, much to the chagrin of everybody out there, but I could see that rationale that Gregg's going to use. And then my front three, I go Pepe, Aronson, and Way at this point. I don't change anything. You bring Pulisic on with 30 minutes left to go, and even though I prefer Busio, I think we'll see Lletget. And I wouldn't bring Acosta in. Acosta and Tyler Adams don't play well together. I wouldn't do it.
I agree. That's my biggest worry for them is they kind of neutralize each other. And I don't think Tyler Adams is the best at building through the midfield. But when you have Musa on there and when you have Weston on there and they're connected, I think it makes Tyler's job a little more defensive and to get those first passes through. And again, I think Tyler's a fantastic player, but having those two players makes his job a little bit easier because he doesn't have to go off the center backs every time and then find an amazing ball to break through that first line of pressure. He has those guys next to him, and occasionally those guys drop into those spaces. There was times that I thought that they were a little bit too flat, the three of them coming back too far, and having that disconnect with the front line and making it hard to play through. But I agree with that. And the thing that the reason why I want Busio, and I don't know if we'll get him, I doubt we'll get him, is because he showed a fight. I don't remember what game it was, but it came in at halftime, came back, and it may have been the Gold Cup or something, but he showed this fight and this willingness to scrap that it was going to be more than just being a luxury player, more than being the American Pirlo, where he's really good on the ball, really clean in possession, and then we go down a man defensively because he doesn't have that sort of transitional speed and effort in that defensive fight. I think he's shown that since then and shown a more willingness that he's going to have to get in and play a little bit dirty. And I'd love to see that part of his game continue to develop. And the only way you get that, and I know he's doing that, he's being forced to do that at Serie A. You can't be a luxury player in a team that's fighting relegation. Well, maybe not so much at the moment, but are going to spend the majority of the season still fighting for every 3 points, has some sort of big implications in the table. So he's one that I think we should trust a little bit more and continue to get those reps.